Everyone got their buttons on? She was gonna come back and give me a thumbs up, right? I call the meeting to order. We'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will perform a roll call of members. Barry,
Present.
Rob,
Present.
George,
Here.
I'm here, John,
Here.
Dave. Here. All right. Good evening and welcome to the October Board of Adjustment meeting. My name is Amy Sherping and I am the chair of the Stearns County Board of Adjustment. I call the meeting to order. Oh, we did that already. At this time, please place all electronic devices on silent. All comments and testimony shall be directed to the chair. All persons providing information must state their name and address for the record. The meeting will run as follows. I will read the variance request, which will open the public hearing. While I'm reading your request, the applicant or their representatives should come forward and have a seat in front of the board by the microphone. Environmental Staff Service will review the staff report and any correspondence has been received regarding the request. The applicant or representatives will state their name and address, provide any input, corrections, concerns, comments. Board will discuss the request and ask questions of all staff or applicants. Upon completion of board of questions, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request. If there is, that person should come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. When all testimony is complete, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. No further input will be taken once the public hearing is closed, unless recognized by the chair, or if any one of the board members is seeking clarification. The board will review, discuss, and vote on the findings of fact. The findings are a series of questions that the board is required to answer based on Minnesota statute and the requirements of the ordinance. All questions must be answered in the affirmative by the board in order to grant a variance request. Our first agenda item is a variance request at Homes Rental LLC. It is an after-the-fact request from Nathan Dial. Did I say that correctly? Deal. Foley, Minnesota, on behalf of At Home Rentals LLC from section 9.9A of the Stearns County Land Use and Ordinance 439 to leave as constructed a 24-foot by 28 residential accessory structure that is located 8 feet to a side property line. Said ordinance requires a structure setback of 10 feet to a side property line. The affected property is Lot 10 of Rensman's re-subdivision, Section 33, T125 North, R30W, Avon Township. Property address is 17083 Upper Spunk Lane Road, Avon, MN 56310. Right. Which board members visited the site? Rob?
Yes.
George?
No.
Dave? Yes. John?
No.
I'm a yes. Barry?
No.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Some background information on the property. The tract of land is Lot 10 of Redsman's re-subdivision on Upper Big Spunk Lake in Avon Township. Reitzman's re-subdivision was platted in 1951 prior to the official controls. The owner purchased the property in 2024. The tract contains 45,709 square feet or 1.04 acres in lot area per the certificate of survey that was provided. The property is in the R1 zoning district. In 1999, some history of the property. In 1999, per the Stearns County Assessor's records, a 24-foot by 28-foot, 672 square foot residential accessory structure was constructed on the property without a permit. In August of 2025, the current owners applied for a construction site permit to rebuild a residential dwelling with attached garage on the property. During the property review for the permit, the 24 by 28 square foot residential accessory structure was noted on the property and that there was no permit on record for it. And so the construction site permit was issued for the new home because there was no variance needed for the home. So it's just basically an after the fact variance to keep that accessory structure that was constructed in 99 without a permit. The owners were granted a variance from Avon Township for the non-conforming garage that we're talking about tonight because it wasn't meeting the road right-of-way setback, and Avon Township has granted them that variance for that. The owners are obviously requesting to keep the 24-foot by 28-foot, 672 square foot residential accessory structure. The structure is located 8 feet from the side property line. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Upper Spunk Lake, classified recreational development. Upper Spunk is on the list of impaired waters for mercury and fish. The proposed impervious lot coverage for the property will be 24.93% based on the survey provided with the variance application. A new subsurface sewage treatment system is going to be installed for the new residential dwelling that is being constructed on the property. An alternative to this request would be to move that residential accessory structure to 10 feet from the side property line. Avon Township, Upper Spunk Lake Association, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And I have not received any other correspondence regarding this request. Thank you.
My name's Nathan Deal, and I live at 406 Maple Drive in Foley.
Questions and answers for staff or applicant? Bob, you got questions?
Oh, sure, I can ask the owner, the applicant, a question. Are you planning on doing any work to that garage? You're gonna re-side it, re-roof it?
At this point, I think we're gonna just leave it as is the plan for now.
Okay.
I have a question for the applicant. Is this a summer home then, or is it what use? What's your use of it? Your residence is in Foley. You just.
So I'm the building contractor on the project.
Okay.
So I represent Bruce and Donna Livering House. They're actually the owners, and it'll be their primary residence once it's done. They do have a home in Florida, so they'll winter in Florida, but they'll live here the rest of the year.
Any more questions for staff or applicant? Everyone's good? Is there any public testimony? Any public testimony? Any public testimony? Can I get a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
John made a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. We will proceed to the finding of facts. Number 1, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the property subject is located? Yes or no? Barry?
Yes?
Rob?
Yes, garages are allowed in the R1 district.
I'm also a yes. John?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Number 2, is the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official controls? Yes or no? George?
Yes, even though it's too close to the property line, I think the burden to the landowner is more than the benefit to the county in having them move it.
Dave?
I agree. 2 feet, it's, seems like it's appropriate where it's at.
John?
I'm a yes.
I'm also a yes. Rob?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Number 3, is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan? Yes or no? Rob?
I'm going to say yes under Lakeshore Living Policies, number 8, that second paragraph. The project maintains the neighborhood's residential character by promoting compatible land uses.
Barry?
Yes. Same reason.
John?
Yes.
Dave? I'd like to add the living goals number 3 to it as well, and I'm also a yes. George? Yes. Okay. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? State why it is reasonable for the record, yes or no? George?
Yes, having an accessory structure garage is a reasonable use.
I'd like to add that the township did give a variance and that this building has been there for quite some time, so I'm also a yes. Dave?
I'm a yes also.
John?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner, yes or no? Barry?
It wasn't created by the landowner, no.
Rob?
Previous,
Oops, sorry. Barry, that's a yes?
that's a yes.
Okay. Rob?
I'm going to say yes, but the landowner owns the problem, but I think the solution is worse than the problem, so I'm going to be a yes.
I'm also a yes. John?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality, yes or no? Rob?
Yes, it's been there 26 years, so it's not going to change.
It'd probably look different if it gone. I'm also a yes. Barry?
Yes.
John?
Yes, same reasoning.
Dave?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic consideration, yes or no? George?
Yes, economics is not an issue here.
Dave?
Yes, I agree.
John?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Rob?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Okay. Staff report results.
All of the questions were answered in an affirmative action.
Great. Can I get a motion to grant the variance?
I'll make a motion to grant the variance.
John made a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Barry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Any questions or anything, just direct yourself to environmental staff, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to agenda item 2. This is an after-the-fact request from Jeff Olson, Ean Valley, Minnesota, trustee of the Jeffrey M. Olson Trust, from section 9.9.9A of the Stearns County Land Use and Ordinance 439 to leave as constructed. 1, a 1,249 square foot residential dwelling located 7.7 feet to a side property line. Number 2, a 24-foot by 24-foot residential accessory structure located 3.5 feet to a side property line. And number 3, a 10-foot by 12-foot water-oriented accessory structure located 0 feet to a sideline. Said ordinance requires a structure setback of 10 feet to a side property line. The affected property is part of Outlet A, Eden Heights, and part of Government Lot 2, Section 17, T122 North, R31W, Eden Lake Township. The property's address is 23562 Durham Court, Eden Valley, Minnesota, 55329. Which members were able to visit the site? Dave?
Yes.
John?
No.
I'm a yes. Barry?
No.
Rob?
Yes.
George?
No.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Some background information on the property. The tract of land consists of part of Outlot A of Eden Heights and part of Government Lot 2 on Rice Lake in Eden Lake Township. Eden Heights was platted in 1973 after the official controls. The owner purchased the property in 2021. The tract contains 17,261 square feet of lot area, or 0.39 of an acre, per the certificate of survey provided with the application. The property is in the R1 zoning district. Some history of the property. In 1988, a construction site permit was issued to construct a 28 by 44 residential dwelling and a 24-foot by 26-foot detached garage and a 12-foot by 12-foot water-oriented accessory structure. The inspection checklist for each of the structures states, as staked on 9/18/1998, meets permit requirements. No survey was required at the time for the permit to be issued. In 2017, a construction site permit was issued to construct a 10 by 14, 140 square foot deck on the lake side of the residential dwelling. And in 2019, based on the Stearns County Assessor's records, the 10-foot by 14-foot area below the deck was converted to a framed screen porch without a permit by a previous owner. In April of 2025, the current owners applied for a construction site permit for a deck addition. During the processing of the application, staff determined there could be a side property line setback and 25% impervious lot coverage standard issue. The certificate of survey was required for the permitting process. The survey noted that the impervious lot coverage was greater than 25% and that the structures in the variance request were not meeting the required 10-foot sideline setback. There were also two structures that required a township road variance. The road variances were granted by Eden Lake Township. The owners are proposing to remove some of the existing impervious surface on the property to reduce the impervious lot coverage down to 24.9%. The owners are requesting to keep the residential dwelling 7.7 feet to the property line, the 576 square foot residential accessory structure that is 3.5 feet to the side property line, and the 120 square foot water-oriented accessory structure that is 0 feet to the side property line. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Rice Lake Classified Recreational Development. Rice is on the list of impaired waters for sulfate. The current impervious lot coverage is 29.3%. The proposed impervious lot coverage will be 24.9% based on the survey provided by the variance application. The subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 1994 and 2003 and was certified compliant in June of 2025. And an alternative to the request would be to move structures to be the 10 feet from the side property line. Eden Lake Township, Rice Lake Association, North Fork of the Crow River Watershed District, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and I have not received any other correspondence regarding this request. Thank you.
All right. Questions for staff or the applicant?
I have a question about the 10 by 12-foot shed. Is that movable? Is it on concrete? What's this structure?
On concrete blocks, so it would be movable. The sidewalk area has been there since 98 or
One
whenever
more.
we put it.
And then Can you,
picture.
can you state your name and address for the
Oh, yep.
record?
Jeff Olson, 23562 Durham Court in Eden Valley.
Thank you.
It'll show you from, it's in the package. Right.
It's
Yeah,
on
That's
concrete
what I was
blocks.
saying, it was like the next picture in our package.
Yep,
Okay,
yeah, it's leveled on concrete. Wait, there it is. Yep. Oh, there it is.
there.
The overhead that I seen in one of these things, it looked like the shed was over the property line.
So if you're talking about the aerial photo one, that would be the county's lines not survey accurate there.
Okay,
So our parcel lines are not rectified to the aerial photo. And so if you go by the certificate of survey that is right there, it shows that it's literally right at the property line.
okay, thanks.
Yep.
And when was that built?
That was permitted along with the home and the garage in 1998.
Okay.
I have a question for staff here. So the request is for number one, a 1,249 square foot residential dwelling. And then in the history under 1998, that's the same structure, right? Okay, square footage is different. And I'm assuming the second one is the same thing. It's the same structure, number two, but the 24 by 26 where it says 24 by 24? Those are the
Yeah,
same?
keep in mind that in 1998, that was just what they applied for. Now, I'm not saying that
Okay.
that's what they built. I'm guessing this was all built at the same time. Based off of our assessor's records, it doesn't show any other additions being put on. So they might have just built things a little bit larger than what they
Okay,
said they were
okay.
going
And
to.
I mean, it does go on to state, as stated, the permit, meets permit requirements, so. A follow-up question, in 2017, a construction site permit was issued, for a deck, but none of this was caught at that time?
So in 17, I can answer that. In 2017, we didn't, I think, was that prior, that was before Shelley came back, I believe. Okay, yeah, so we were kind of in the process of, when Shelley came back, she wanted us to be able to try and clean up these properties, right? And so it might have been at the point where before we actually said, okay, we're gonna look at every structure on the property when we issue a permit, which like we do now. We probably weren't doing that back in 2017, otherwise it would have been caught at that time.
Thank you.
Good question.
So what is the request for tonight?
So the request is for all three of those structures to be located where they are right now. The home is 7.7 feet from the property line. It needs to be 10, according to the ordinance. The detached garage that you're seeing there is 3.5 feet to the property line. It needs to be 10. And then the other one is for the water-oriented accessory structure, which is literally right on the property line, and it needs to be 10. So they want to keep all of those structures where they are right now without having to do anything else to them.
So there isn't a new request to do something that's triggered all of this?
Correct.
That they just want to fix?
Yep. What they're going to be doing does not require the variance. It's just these structures that were constructed prior to and permitted prior to.
He's just trying to make things right.
But there was something, not adding a deck, or you're not asking to do anything in addition to, or other than just fixing these?
He isn't even fixing any of these structures. He's going to be, if you look at the survey up there, and I can show you here. He's adding a portion of deck, and if I speak out of turn, please. So he's going to be adding on to his deck, which will meet all of the required setbacks. So he applied for the permit for this, and when we got the survey, we noted, number one, he's over his impervious, so he couldn't do that unless he took care of that. And number two was to clean up get a variance for these structures to be where they are, basically, that were permitted in 98. And just, like Shelley mentioned, at that time, we didn't require surveys, and so we probably measured to, hey, where's the mow line? Because that's usually what we used to do in the past if we didn't have a survey, is we look for pins, and if you can't find pins, the next best option is, okay, looks like he's mowing to here, so that's probably where the two property owners think the property line is, right? And so that's how these things come about, unfortunately.
Thank you, I just couldn't access my laptop right now, so.
I have a follow-up question, or another question for staff here. So if I follow this right, technically, like 1, 2, and 3 were permitted in 1998, correct?
That is
I
correct.
mean, the landowner followed the proper
Correct,
channels.
correct.
Nothing was just really,
Correct.
there was no survey done. It was just, okay, we're gonna put it here, here, and here, and everything was written off on. The only thing really non-compliant is what was done in 2019. There's no permit for that, right? The deck converted to a screen porch.
Correct.
Okay.
And that will be taken care of with his construction site permit as well.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
But that doesn't need the variance, so that's why it wasn't. I have it in the staff report, but I'm not saying it's part of the variance request. Good questions.
Just a comment, everything is progressing and, rules, regulations, and uniformity is a goal and continues. From a property investment, long-term standpoint and saleability, not only for you, but your neighbors, wouldn't it make sense? I mean, if that shed had a foundation, concrete floor and all that, I get it, but it's on blocks. And if you're doing some improvements to the deck and so on and so forth, wouldn't it make sense to get the shed at least in compliance? It's just a question, comment, I just think that it's pretty close to that property line.
I want to add to his just a little bit here. So there was also a variance that was approved by the Eden Township, correct, for this?
Correct. The township did issue 2 variances for the road setback that
Right.
these structures weren't meeting. Now,
Do you
maybe you
know-
can answer, was the water-oriented one, the ones that variance was for, or was it for the house and the detached garage?
I don't believe that was part of it. So you can see I'm at that end of Durham Court there. So there was I think my steps were a foot closer than they should have been to the 30-foot. And then on the back side, the shed got a variance because that was within the 30-foot setback zone
Okay.
too, so.
And that variance from the township was that was obtained by the previous owner, not
No,
you?
I just did
You
that
did it,
prior to
okay,
this.
thank you.
Okay. Here's to the end.
And then it gets pushed up to us.
Yeah, the property lines are our request.
Right.
The roads are the township's
Townships.
request. Unless the township chooses not to hear them, then we have to hear them for
Right.
them, which we've
We've
done
been-
in the past
yes, we
for
have.
other properties, for sure.
I have a question for the applicant. Have you talked to the neighbor about having a shed on the line?
The neighbors are fine with it. I mean, you can see even the retaining wall next to the garage.
Don't you
Yep.
think if his neighbor would have had an issue, we would have got a letter?
Yeah, and I mean, to the point of mowing, that retaining wall I thought was all my property, so that was, I've been maintaining all that strip even behind the shed too. There's, probably 6 feet that I assumed was mine, so the property lines are just off.
But your current neighbor doesn't have a problem with it. But
No, I talked to,
what happens when they're not your neighbor? When you get a new person in there who takes offense to having
That's kind of where I was.
even with a variance, having your shed on the property line?
But, so, question for staff, so, I mean, if we approve this tonight, the variance, and somebody else moves in next to him,
That
they
doesn't-
can't do anything about it because it's been approved, right?
That shouldn't even, that's a future thing.
Yep.
Correct. Yep, he's checked the box.
Yes.
If you guys grant the variance for it, it can be there.
Can conditions be added to these if he ever does renovating work or something at that time? If he does any work to that water accessory shed, he would have to bring it into compliance at that time?
Madam Chair, members of the board, for sure. I mean, if you guys want to put a condition that if he would ever need to replace that structure, you could put a condition that the variance goes away and they have to meet the requirements with it.
We could also add if there was a sale of the property and it was contested by the new property owner, there would be a responsibility. And by that time, it maybe is time to do something with the shed anyway.
The shed's not a permanent structure.
Yeah.
That can be moved 10 feet. There's no setback requirement for water accessory structure, right?
10 feet.
From
That's
from the water.
Oh, from the water, it's 10 feet as well.
Okay.
And he's meeting that by, you know,
Right, but I
without,
mean,
without a
he-
problem.
he's got
So
all
right
that
now, yeah.
land up to 10 feet to the
Yeah,
shoreline.
it's literally just
ordinary.
that property line that's
Right.
the issue for him right
Right.
now, yeah.
But he can
Correct.
take it down the hill and move it closer to the lake without needing anything to allow him to do that.
So we can do this one of two ways. We can do this all in one, or we can do them separately. So I want everyone's input. I would prefer to do them all in one.
I would concur with that, given the circumstances, and the fact that they've been there for so long. It just seems to make sense to fix it all in one motion.
Can we do all in one? I think it's fair, as properties change hands and conditions change, that there may be some conditions on the shed to get it closer to compliance in the future. Can that be all done in one, or
Yeah.
is it a two-part?
We can add the condition to the water accessory structure to be in compliant when it gets replaced to this variance. So yes, we can.
Madam Chair, I'm gonna say separate them because that shed's not permanent. He can move that. He doesn't need a variance for that.
George, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Rob.
You want them separate?
Yep.
Okay, John?
I do it as one.
Well, the doing it as one outweighs the doing them separate, so we are gonna do them all at one. So, are there any more questions for staff or the board member? Is there any public testimony? Any public testimony? Any public testimony? Can I get a motion to close the hearing, please?
I'll move to close the hearing.
George made a motion to close. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Rob. Is there any final discussion? Okay, can I get a vote to close, or all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will be moving on to the finding of facts. This variance will be, all three requests will be done in one variance. Is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located? Yes or no? John?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. I'd like to put on record it is a R1. Rob?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official controls? Yes or no? George?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes, I guess, maybe not under current provision, but what existed back then, I will say yes.
Okay, so back in 1998, all of this was permitted. There was just no survey attached because they didn't
okay.
require it
Well-
at that time. I also want to add that that Mr. Olson did obtain a township variance that was also recognized as well. John?
Yes.
Rob?
No. Having the shed on the property line is not in compliance with the R1 portion of Appendix A.
Okay, Barry?
I have a problem with it being on the property line, but I'm comfortable with a yes with the condition that it isn't grandfathered in forever because it's not a permanent structure.
Okay. Number 3, is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no? Rob?
I'm gonna say no, it's not. Under living goals number 2, I have written down, manage the impact of growth and development on the county's rural character and natural resources. You're not managing the county's growth if you're allowing that to sit on the property line. That's not appropriate.
Barry?
With it being approved once in 1998, I'm not compelled to be that rigid. I just think that there has to be, going back to, an opportunity if that shed is tore down or if there's a sale of the property, it's open for, to be contested by a new owner to the adjacent property, which could expedite the moving of the shed.
Okay. George?
I mean, yes, kind of similar to what Barry's talking about. If there's a condition we put in on the shed, that if he ever comes in to try to do something to it, modify it or whatever, that it be moved. So I'm a yes.
Dave?
I'm gonna say yes under Lakeshore Living Policies, number 8. There's some couple of guidelines listed there. One, this project preserves sightlines. It does not negatively impact view sheds of adjacent properties. Apparently, these structures have been there for some time, and apparently, my understanding is we've had no complaints about the location of said structures, so I would say it is in compliance.
John?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes or no? Barry?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. It's reasonable to want to keep your buildings that are pre-existing. John?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. George?
Yes.
Great. Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no? I'm gonna say yes. This is a very unique one. The permits were issued in 1998. There was no survey attached, so at the time it did meet it. Again, I'm gonna put on here, he did correct it with the township and got variances. So, Barry?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality, yes or no? George?
Yes, it's been there for, what, 27 years, so it won't change.
Okay. Dave?
Yes, I agree with George.
John?
Yeah, same reasoning.
And I'm also a yes. Rob?
Yeah.
Barry?
Yes.
Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic consideration, yes or no? I'm gonna say yes, economics were not discussed. George?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Rob?
I'm gonna say no. I think finances and labor is what's keeping them from moving the shed. It's an easy fix to that. But
Barry?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna put some restrictions on,
Yes.
so,
That was my question.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Madam.
staff report?
All the questions were answered in a majority, yes,
Okay.
affirmative.
And then we are going to discuss the conditions we are attaching to this. So the first one, I think, was the water accessory structure, that when it gets replaced, that it'll be in compliant. It's fine for now until it gets replaced to a new one. Then it can come in compliance at that time.
I would add major renovation to that.
And I'm talking the water accessory. Okay, go ahead. John's gonna add to mine.
I mean, it's, yeah, if it, I don't know, you call major renovation to it, but if Yeah, if you're gonna do any, I'd say any repair work to the shed, at that time it needs to be moved.
Okay,
I'm gonna agree with that. Replacement is, it might never have to be replaced, but if you're gonna do repair on it, then I think it should become in compliance.
anyone else like to add any of the other structures?
Can I just
we're
read
not
what I
gonna
have
require-
here and see if you're okay with this?
Yes, thank you.
So the water-oriented must be moved to meet the requirements if renovated or replaced.
Yes, I think that's pretty fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would disagree with that. I think if we're not gonna require him to move it now, if he, or if the owner wants to make some repairs, that seems reasonable to me. So I think it's overly restrictive to, simple repair or maintenance of the shed where it's at is, too much of a burden or too burdensome on the property owner. So, my opinion.
I concur with David. I think if at some point, those sheds, they're not built to last like a permanent structure. And if it has to be rebuilt, then it should be moved. Or if I buy the property next door and I go, well, wait a minute, no, can't do that?
There's no way for us to track when the neighboring property is gonna sell. That's gonna be a really
No, not,
burden.
he doesn't, but if the new owner contests, it's,
How will they know?
Right, this is gonna be one of those,
if we get-
if you grant the variance, then you're granting the variance. I don't think we should go down the what happens with the neighbor line of questioning, because that will create other issues.
I look at the building being on blocks, you might want to pour some foundation on sometime and then move it accordingly.
We had the appropriate remedy just by separating them and not granting the variance on that. But
We
The train has,
lumped them all together.
That train has
So
left the
restriction
station.
is
Yep,
the only
that's-
thing we can do.
Yep.
We're good.
Okay,
You
do
c-
we
you-
want any other conditions added to this? Jamie, will you read, I'm sorry.
Are we going with,
You have to read the condition and then vote on the condition, and then you can vote on a motion with the condition if you've agreed to the condition.
Can you read the condition?
The condition that I've heard was the water-orientated must be moved if renovated or replaced. And you guys can have a vote on whether or not that is the condition you want placed.
so the word renovated is important. It's not,
That's what I
it
was
doesn't,
thinking, George.
doesn't say maintenance, so it satisfies what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, right. If new shingles are needed, if rodent chews through the wall and they want to fix it, I mean, that to me they should be able to do that without being required to move the whole shed.
That's maintenance. Yeah.
Maintenance.
I think that's a
maintenance.
repair, not a renovation.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
It's what?
I think it's a repair, not a renovation. If the squirrels chew through the
Can you
wall.
somehow
Or like you
distinguish
said.
Yeah.
both? Yeah.
and he's saying renovation.
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I don't know if this will help or hurt this condition, but I would like to let you guys know that a water-oriented accessory structure no longer requires a permit. So we aren't gonna know if he does it anyways. So I don't know if that changes your guys' opinion, but a structure that's 150 square feet or less does not require a permit from our office.
That's right, forgot about that.
So, that being said, I don't know if that changes your guys' opinions, but just know that he won't be calling us to get a permit for this.
Right.
And we won't be saying you have to move it 10 feet off the property line, because unless it gets sold and the next person calls us and says, hey, I want to rebuild this structure, we'll say, oh, we look at your variance and we'll see that condition. But if this property owner has it, probably not gonna call us and say, hey, I gotta rebuild that. What are my options now again?
But now,
So
if he,
just know that.
but if he applies for a building permit to enclose under the deck or to enlarge the garage, that restriction would show on there.
It will still be part of this variance if you put this condition on there. But I'm just telling you the honest
Yeah,
situation
Yep.
here is if he has to rebuild that, he doesn't need a permit from us. So if he doesn't call us to say, hey, I want to rebuild this, do I need a permit? We won't know it was rebuilt.
So,
So he could-
go. Follow-on question to what you're talking about here. So if a person comes in, I've got property and I want to put a 150 square foot shed, I can put it anywhere I want it, can't I?
Nope, our ordinance specifies that you have to meet the setback
Setbacks.
requirements
Okay, I
with
wanted to
it,
make that clear.
but it does not require them to get a permit from us.
Yeah.
So I would tell anybody who calls that says, I want to put up a water-oriented, as long as it's 150 square feet or less and less than 10 feet in height, 10 feet from property lines, 10 feet from this lake in this situation.
So what,
No permit is required, and we're not gonna come out and verify that you met those 10 feet setbacks. But where it will get caught is in the future, if they apply for a permit, and we're looking like it might not be meeting that setback, we're gonna require a survey, and then they're gonna have to move it, or they're gonna have to come in front of you again, so,
or unless somebody complained about it,
correct.
then you would know about it and would be able to
Correct.
do something about it. So, I mean, we can still put this condition on, but it might never be used.
No, but I
That's
like
What
the
I
idea
wanted
of
to,
it
that's what
for
I wanted you
future.
to know, that.
with
So-
that being said, you can do perpetual renovation if you keep up with the maintenance on one of those sheds as well. If you do nothing, they go to the ground, but you can do perpetual renovation, so it's,
So,
Keep in mind that without the condition, it can be replaced in that same location as long as it's not expanded.
Which
so-
when
so
it gets replaced, we're trying to make it in compliant.
does that
'Cause at some
include
point in time, it will be.
wanting to put that the shed, existing shed as it is?
Yep.
Puts it on a cement slab? Could he do that without a permit?
If you have no condition on here,
Right.
he can do that without any problems. He has a variance for it to be 0 feet from the property
Okay.
line. And so it can be rebuilt, it just can't be expanded. So the documented dimensions that we have in this staff report limit them to the size. So if it was 12 by 12 now, he couldn't build a 10 by 15, 0 feet from the property line.
Yeah.
But he could replace this exact structure with no condition.
So it seems to me the conditions are pointless. If he can build, the only reason he'd have to come back here is if he wanted to go larger,
Correct.
basically, or maybe higher or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Replace it. So do we need a motion for the condition?
That is what we need. We need a motion, well, in this case, to grant, because there was a majority yes vote on all. And if you want the condition, you need that part of that motion. If you don't want the condition, then don't include it with the motion.
I'll make a motion to include the conditions that, well, Jamie had read earlier, however it was stated.
So a water-orientated must be moved if renovated or replaced.
Correct. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Quit. Okay,
motion made.
clarification or question before we vote on a motion. Is repair included in renovation? Okay, so if there's a new roof,
That's up to you guys to
retaining a
talk through. I don't know,
rotten siding.
I don't know your definition of renovation.
Dave, my motion would be that, no, maintenance would be allowed with it. Repair, that's the way I interpret
All
that
right.
motion.
I can live with that, okay.
It's just, yeah.
I just want to make
But
sure.
we have a motion from John, a second from Rob, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Can I get a motion to grant the variance request with the variance,
With the conditions?
with the condition? Yep, that
Correct.
was the motion with the condition. Now I'm asking for a motion to grant the variance that we agreed on.
I think that was taken care of
Okay.
already.
Okay,
Yeah, with conditions, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, perfect. All right, and everyone, all in favor was aye, so, okay. Any questions, please talk to staff, thank you.
We had to drag that one out.
All right, Thank you, Jamie.
I think we need to take a motion to close, to.
No, because we have
gotcha,
we have
sorry.
Mr. Newman.
Yes, you're right.
Giving us his knowledge.
So this is bluff information. We've been kind of dealing with a lot of them lately.
Yeah, I asked for a field trip, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, I will stress a meeting in January for all new members with a mock trial, so, and we can get all the voting done with, so we don't have to do this.
You want a field trip in February to look at
Well,
bluffs?
not in February, but at some point in time. Because when,
We can
when
bring
you
our
get new
sleds.
members and you get thrown into the meeting, you don't know how to answer questions, it's like a lot. So I want a mock for all new members, I want us to get our voting done and out of the way, so we don't have to tie up a meeting with that, and just a general run-through, so, I mean, yep, so like when you're a new member that comes onto this board, it's like a meet and greet, we do a mock trial, and then, you know, the questions are a lot to answer, and you don't know how to answer them.
It was pretty much worthless.
It is worthless.
It was. You'll never, like you said, you'll never tell us when he replaces it or puts a new roof on or.
Well, if I was buying that property.
Well, that's why I asked.
Upgrades the value of my property.
Yeah. Yep.
You drive around these lakes, it just gives you the chills.
Well, so many of them were done before the
More
official
normal than not.
control.
Well, he has less time now that we took so long on this other one.
Yes, members of the Board of Adjustment, I'm Nick Newman, Senior Environmental Specialist, Environmental Services. I do a lot of the shoreland work, shoreline alterations. I worked on some of the bluff language that we modified a little bit here this last year. And then I do septic inspections as well. So that's what I'm here. I was told you wanted to learn more about bluffs, how they're determined, getting the definition, and then I wanted to add, some of the risks and then what the regulations are around bluff areas in the county. So essentially there's three parts here I'll go through. One is what are bluffs? Why do we care what bluffs are? And then what are the regulations on them? So what is a bluff? So this is a question that comes up a lot. Property owners, contractors, the word comes up and there's a lot of questions about it. Some sites we go to, we can say, yeah, this is probably a bluff just by looking at how steep and how tall it is. Other sites are a little bit, you get to a point where, okay, well, it's kind of a hill, and there's a little bit of slope here, but is this really a bluff or not? You can't always tell when you're on site. So we look at surveys, and with the surveys we can do the contours and we can do measurements and we can quantify the slope in a way. So you've probably seen maps like this where we map bluff and bluff setbacks, but how do we go from this, to this? And that's what we'll go through right now. So essentially there's three different things that are required to be a bluff. The first thing is it's got to be in a lake, shore, or by lake or river in a shoreland area. And again, that's within 1,000 feet of a lake or 300 feet of a river. So we have to have proximity to water. That's step one. If we have that, then we can go to step two, and the slope needs to rise at least 25 feet above the water. So the slope where a bluff is calculated, the 25 feet doesn't need to be within the bluff area, but the slope, the continuous slope that it's on, where we're mapping bluff, The highest point has to be at least 25 feet above the water. And then the third part is we're looking at a 50-foot horizontal transect. And on that 50-foot transect, we have a portion of the slope that exceeds 30%. Like this here, we're measuring horizontally 50 feet, and we need at least a 30% slope. So in a 50-foot run, that's about 15 feet of elevation change. So now we're going to do an interactive portion here. Test, test, that works, okay. Shelley, yep. Yes? Yep.
When you guys do these surveys, who sets the standard for the surveys? Is that the county? Is this a federal thing that you're looking at? Is this universal?
So the DNR has a bluff standard statewide. Ours is slightly more restrictive in some circumstances than the DNR. However, the standard is based on essentially what local ordinances are, and it's part of shoreline management as a requirement to meet minimum state guidelines. But the state has a bluff standard, and then counties can be more restrictive if they want to on that.
So why not just follow the DNRs?
I will get into that shortly.
Okay.
For this, a lot of people don't know what a 30% slope looks like, so I wanted to make something interactive here. We'll plug it in. And I was hoping for more people in the crowd to make it a little bit more, more fun. But we do have the holiday season coming up, so we get the lights and yeah. So with this being about a 30-foot run and about 10 feet high, that gives you a kind of an idea. Now in the middle, that can be up or down a little bit as long as over that 50-foot section, we've got that 30% slope. That's 30% there as well. So if we have all of those things, we have bluff. But how do we know where the edge of the bluff is? So the top part of the bluff where we're looking a lot of times for the setbacks. And that is step 4. That's the last thing really to determine the edge, and that is where we have a 50-foot section that's 18% or less. That's the cutoff. So at that point, it's no longer bluff beyond that if it's flatter than that. We keep it consistent with 50-foot transects. The only two numbers we need to know are 30% across a 50-foot transect and 18% across a 50-foot transect. This simplifies from what the DNR standard is. The DNR standard, you had to do multiple transect lengths and multiple percentages that were calculated. So it became a lot more involved to accurately determine where the bluff was, and it became very time-consuming for staff to verify that. So that was one of the reasons that we looked at the bluff standards in the ordinance this last year. I'm just going to show this one more time. We've got a video that walks through the process again. So we're looking for, we got an area that's maybe bluff. We do a survey with 1-foot contours. We see, okay, is it in a shoreland area? Yes or no? If yes, step 2, does our slope go 25 feet above or more from the water? If yes, go to step 3. Is there a 50-foot section horizontally that's 30% or steeper? If yes, then we have bluff. And then find the top of the bluff so that we can find where the setback is. We move up the slope at a 50-foot transect until it's 18% or less, and that's the top of the bluff, and then that's where the building setback is measured from, the 30-foot top of bluff setback. So why do we care? We've got the bluff standard.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes,
So,
yes.
So on that, go back to one.
Yep.
So that 50-foot at 18% slope.
Yep.
So part of the requirement, you have to have 50 feet in order for it to be a bluff? What if it's 35 feet?
So it can be less because, so it would have to be at least 50 feet with 30% slope.
If you got that, then that other part, the 50 feet.
Yep, so that might be really close to where this is. It can be, it can be more than 50 feet, and most times it is, and it can be less than 50 feet. It might only be 10 feet from that steep portion, depending on how the rest of the slope is. But we're only looking at a 50-foot transect length all the way along.
Okay.
The DNR standard, you have to look at both a transect, smaller transect, as well as the entire slope. And then you have to compare the two and to decide which one's more restrictive, and then you go from there. And on very complex slopes, that can be very time-consuming to do.
Which one ends up being more restrictive?
It depends on how the slope is shaped, yep. Yep. Any other questions on this part? So why do we care? We go through all this effort, to say whether it's bluff or not. Why do we really care? We've had instances, and this was kind of the other driving factor and why we looked at the ordinance section, is because we had areas that, we had washouts from slopes and bluff areas that made it to the lake. And it's obviously not something that we want. And there's some areas where structures might even be impacted at some point here. So there's risks and there's impacts when we have alterations that get close to and into bluff areas. One thing I wanted to highlight here, so when we have permits issued for structures, permits don't just allow the structure to go in where it's staked. The construction site permits also allow for development 20 feet of outside of the perimeter of the structure. So retaining walls, dirt work, patios, things like that can happen within 20 feet of the structure. So while we might be issuing a permit for, maybe a structure that's 30 feet from the top of the bluff, we have walls and other things that happen 20 feet out, so now we start getting closer. And under the previous interpretation, there were areas that got very close, and we had a lot of issues where walls and other things got into the slope and then led to problems, going down slopes. And, even when those issues are rectified and stabilized, we still have a long-term condition where we have additional runoff coming from these structures down steep slopes and bluffs, in areas that they hadn't before. And that can create longer-term issues. So that was another kind of driving factor in that. We have a lot of things that happen from development. We got additional runoff, erosion potential increases. These areas, oftentimes, when in construction sites, topsoil is either removed or compacted or not very good quality, and then it's very difficult to establish good vegetation on these areas, making them further more, prone to erosion. There's other impacts potentially from stormwater diversions or things that can affect the soil and slope stability. We've seen this on stormwater plans for near slopes that can have impacts. And then in addition, there's obviously visual impacts from the water body or elsewhere.
I got a really silly question.
No, that's okay.
So how does a homeowner like insurance coverage on something like this?
Yeah, it does vary, and that's up to their policy and what they have, but,
What was your question?
Insurance, like how does someone, like how would you even get insurance on something like this, like as a homeowner?
Sliding into the lake.
I guess,
Half the homes in San Diego are built on
yeah.
water.
I mean,
what I
Lisa,
was gonna say,
it's
yeah.
a silly question, but how does an insurance come up with their standards for coverage?
Yeah, yes. I guess ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to create conditions when we issue permits that don't create unstable slopes that lead to that very problem in the first place. We want to try to prevent that from even being an issue. And, that's why we look at protecting these areas and limiting or prohibiting development because, where bluffs are present, because there are a lot of factors beyond our control. Even if we were to do detailed looks at the soil and the stormwater and runoff issues that are beyond, what we can feasibly look at to guarantee something's not going to happen. So we want to make sure that we're doing our work and preventing these things from happening in the first place.
So are there any approved or mitigation efforts that can be done that might allow a structure to be built within a bluff, or
You know, Dave,
that would be acceptable to the state or
that is
to
a
the county.
great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because any bluff variance request we have, if you look at your packet, Nick puts together recommendations for that. So I don't know if you've seen them in your packet or not, but they're in there, believe it or not. Same thing with construction of something in the shore impact zone, you know, close to the lake, 50 feet or less. Nick puts together information for every variance request that you guys hear, and it's all in that packet. And
That
so
could become a condition maybe of approving.
he puts recommendations in there as well. So those, if you want to grant it and go with the condition, kind of like we did tonight, those are things that you guys as a board can add to those requests. Now, we don't want you to make your decision based on that, on his recommendation being implemented. The first thing you guys should be looking at is, should this be allowed to be done there? And then if you come to a yes, we're okay with it being there, then you look at the condition and say, yep, you know, staff had provided a condition that whatever be done.
But my understanding, I mean, this bluff stuff is like sacred grail, right? And so if it hasn't been built yet, we shouldn't be saying, yeah, good to go.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the ordinance says that there's no construction allowed on the bluff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You need
these
to
are
be
all-
30 feet back from Nick's top of the bluff. So where he had on his slide, that top of the bluff up there with that red line, they need to build 30 feet back from there.
So when somebody does a permit and they want to do it on the bluff, can they request to come to get a variance?
They have to. They're having to come in front of you. We've just had Solis. Do you remember Solis? They had like 15 different structures that were in the bluff.
That was kind of a
I mean,
unique property.
that same night, we had 2 other ones that were bluffs, and so,
There was one recently, because I remember good, and I'm not gonna remember the name, I think it was out in Richmond area, and I failed to see the bluff. The bluff was there, but the setback,
Yeah.
he needed a variance. But then, I don't know, I think maybe Ron, you said afterwards that he filled that bluff in over the years.
yeah, what was,
Because that would've made a difference knowing that. It's like,
How do you know he filled it in?
yeah, how do you know that, Rob?
Yeah, how do you know?
aerial
did you-
photos.
did-
I mean, we have aerial photos that,
But
that was
that
That's
was
how
a
we-
county issue. Did they witness him bringing in all this? Did you see it get trucked in?
In that particular instance, there was a violation, and we had to do correction prior to that. Downey was then asking here a variance to keep the big deck.
Yep.
Yes.
And those cute panorama chairs that sit
Yep,
in front
yep,
on that
yep,
picture.
yep.
That's how I remember it.
That's the one.
Yeah, so, I mean, back to like the original question, you know, like, are there ways to mitigate? When you're in areas of bluff, there are very few options to really be able to mitigate the effects from development, because you're going to be changing, you're gonna be changing, you know, the slope, you're going to be changing how runoff moves over the slope, and 99 times of 100, you're removing vegetation that's helping hold that soil in place. And even if the current owners that are granted the variance, even if they do well in how it's done and constructed and stabilized, there's no, you know, guarantee that, expanded use of a patio, for example, you know, maybe it's a small patio that becomes more of an area that people use. I see this on shoreline alterations all the time. People ask, well, we're just doing a small retaining wall and patio. Yes, but what about everything else that then happens? We're dragging canoes and boats and kayaks and things, and having campfires all the time, and ash gets closer to the lake, and get a big rainstorm and all washes into the water. It's not just the thing that we're permitting, kind of going back to the structure to it. It's everything else in the expanded use that comes along with it that creates the impact that we're trying to, reduce on the front end. So that's just, it's just something to think about and keep in mind as requests come forward, and these proposals come forward, that, there's more that can happen even if it is, approved from what you see on the page.
Shelley?
And just as a reminder, and we've seen it several times in the last few months, people can put in their impervious surface without permit. So that's why they're going over the impervious surface, and we're often seeing people have to reduce. And it's not uncommon in steep sloped areas, I want to create my flat space, so they're making it more permanent. They're putting in the concrete. They're doing things, patio pavers, not always engineered, so they're creating more impervious surface, which means more water runoff, and that slope can't handle it. Those slopes are often sensitive soils. They can be highly erodible. As soon as you give them a little place to go, that water, it starts to really erode. So that's why we're trying to be more careful, and that's why the language is that we don't allow for development in that bluff. So not built when it's new, that's great, but you often have people wanting to add to structures in the bluff. Well, if it's stabilized and now they're going to go in there and do something, that's a fear factor for us, right? That's like, okay, it's stable, leave it alone, don't add to it. And if they want to go in and add their addition to the side and, oh, it's just a little bit of the bluff, well, that is more impact, and we're trying to avoid that.
What about going up?
Well, up is different, and sometimes you have to ask that question. Do you have more impact when it comes off of a higher spot than it does from a lower spot? I mean, those are the questions we ask ourselves. So,
I just a few ideas on that. So, if we're adding maybe 2 bedrooms to a house, now we have an additional 2 or 3 occupants to the house, and maybe an additional 2 cars in a driveway that gets expanded, and another dog in the yard. And now we have more activity and maybe more impervious surface that it may or may not happen, but it happens a lot of times when we're expanding the use of a property. And those are kind of the hidden things that we don't see on a permit necessarily or an application, but those things tend to happen over time.
How many bluff zones are in Stearns County? Like, where a majority, like, where, is it like, is there a certain area that has more bluffs than, well, let's say
You
St.
guys
Rose?
actually have 2 of them coming up next month for you, so this was a perfect time for this training.
Like, do you see it more in certain areas?
January so
Richmond area has a bunch.
Okay.
Obviously, 2 that you're going to be hearing next
Coronas?
month are in Richmond or Township. Coronas has some. You have some up on Big Birch Lake, Little Birch Lake.
Yep.
There's bluffs up there.
Side of the
So
lake is really steep,
Yep.
and the other's not.
we actually have quite a few of them, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So that's why you're hearing so many of them. And a lot of these places are not developed right now because they've never been granted permits in the past to do them.
They're the challenging things that are left over.
Yeah, there's
If
no
it
good
was-
properties left right now.
Let's just be honest that there's no, with the exception of Big Fish Lake where they did Alexander Point and made some beautiful lots,
Yeah.
that's why they sell for the price they do. We don't have a lot of open land that can be subdivided without major alteration. And that's the problem. So that's why they ask for variances or conditional uses to do shoreland alteration, to all of these different things. So it's a challenge. That's why you're here, why we have a planning commission, why we look at all those things.
And why you guys are hearing them is because they're cheap lots. I mean, they're affordable lots. Well, that's because they're bluffs.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well, compared to the other flat lots, they're going to be a lot cheaper. If you don't have a cabin or anything on it, you're buying it for $160,000, $200,000 maybe. But you got a bluff. I mean, your slope is like that.
See, for me, not just the bluffs, but anything, any standard that there is, if it's something that's going to be built, if it's something that's going to be built that hasn't been done yet, for me, it's always a no. I mean, that's a way for us to maintain the standards. But if they're coming in and say, well, I want to add on, 1,000 square feet to the house, it can still be no, because it hasn't been constructed yet.
Well, what about when you get broken steps and they want to just make it that half inch bigger than what it is?
If there's an opportunity to correct it, to get it back in standard, in my opinion, that's where we ought to go.
Like I said,
Well, like you said, a broken step and they're replacing the boards, so they don't make boards, obviously, like they did then. So, what is an impact of half an inch or an inch to that?
Allow for some of that to happen, replacement already, without having to come to the Board of Adjustment. And a lot of those things do happen, and we get that all the time, where maybe they're replacing an existing, legal non-conforming structure. Steps, you can do 4-foot wide steps or less without a permit. Those kinds of things, they happen all the time. We do have a lot of provisions for people to meet the requirements and still, have reasonable use of the property, whether it's for lake access or, otherwise. We try to work with people on that, and I think the ordinance provides that.
So when they give a lot of good options when they come here, I mean, I'm sure you talk to the residents and say, hey, if you did this, you wouldn't have to come in and get a variance. And they say, no, I want to try to get a variance. And then they come to this board, and then they try to convince us that the staff gave them wrong information or not good enough information for what they want to do.
Shelley?
Madam Chair, that is exactly what we do. My job is to make sure staff is doing that. They're giving alternatives. They're talking about this. We try to reduce the number of variances coming forward. We say, look at this, especially now with impervious surface. So I'll just give you an example. The other day, I had someone call and say, I just want to go to 1% over, right? I just want to do this. And I said, well, we've made other people remove impervious surface, right? To get into the 25, and you saw it tonight, right? They reduced to get to the 25%. And they're like, but I see this person, and I said, if you want to make a complaint, make a complaint. We'll take a look at it. We looked, they got a permit. They were at 24.9.
It's usually 24.9 on
Right?
every
But
survey.
Seems to be a
in
common
compliance, right?
factor number.
So that's the whole thing. My job, but they're still asking me, why can't I do this? And my answer is you can make a request, but you just constructed 2 years ago. Now you constructed more impervious surface because we don't permit it, right? And we're saying, oh, your permit said to be at 25% and you went over. You think you guys are going to grant them a variance because they built new construction and they decided to put more impervious on it? Nope. So we're saying to people, don't come in and ask for that because we know you guys are going to say no because they recently built this and made a choice to build over that, right? You guys aren't going to go, oh, well. But when it was 30 years ago, when the things are different, that's a different perspective. But a new home built over the standard by choice, that's where we're trying to get them to understand as staff. You have other alternatives. Remove some of that. We can give you the permit then, and it's good. And we have quite a few of them have said, okay, we'll do that. Second part of this is we've also increased the fees. So they're going to be thinking about some of these other options a little more carefully. Because now, if it's after the fact, it's $2,400 to come in and ask the question.
It usually requires a survey as well, which is probably $1,000 to $2,000.
Yes.
So they're gonna have $4,000 into it before they get in front of you.
These surveys are so night and day difference from 15 years ago till now. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you know which one's right?
15
Well,
years
somewhat.
ago, they weren't.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just say, because when I started working in environmental services, I would go out and I'd be looking for property pins, and somebody would tell me, well, that's where I was sold the property. The realtor pointed it out to me. And I was like, oh boy, this is bad.
Or it's a mow line like we talked about tonight.
Or
You
an
know,
assumed
if I
fence
can't
line.
find pins, what do I do?
Well, I think of that farmer that had the machine shed on his niece's property.
Right.
Yeah, it's like how to,
Yeah.
I get,
Unless you have a survey, you don't know, which is why I said, when I came back, we have to ask for more because people are expecting more. right?
Look at this, Mr. Olson tonight, you know?
They got permits, we didn't know, he thought his land was different too. And when I buy property, I get a survey.
We recommend it
sure
when people call. If you're on a lake, get a survey. You
It's
need to
gonna-
know where your property lines are. You
It's to
just-
your
you need
benefit in the
it.
long run.
You need
It's
to
better
know.
for insurance, it's better for everything. Property sale, value, you're gonna be benefited by your survey. Now, it's gonna cost them money, it'll take them some time, but it has value to you, getting that survey.
They should create a pamphlet for people who want to purchase lakeshore property. the
We
Dewey
have a
Bill.
pamphlet that we
we
hand
do.
out.
We sent,
Realtors will hand that out, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
He-
you should be giving
On a
those
lake
to the
You need to
realtors.
in
read it.
shoreland.
everybody who buys property receives a shoreland summary from us in the mail, so.
Okay.
Yep.
We do that twice a year, every 6 months.
to know.
Yeah.
Nick has 30 more slides, let him go.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't have anything else.
Right now, I believe we have 4 land use and 1 feedlot for next month. Deadline is Monday, so more could come in, but that's where we're at for next month.
Where's the feedlot?
Busy.
Where's the feedlot?
That's a good question. Where is Amber's area, do you know? I don't know.
It'll come in the thing.
Yeah, I believe it's out west, if I'm not mistaken, so it'll be closer to you, Amy.
Yeah, yep, before we move on to that part, I got a little something here, so I'm just gonna ask everyone real quickly here, board members and staff, just to take a moment of silence so we can recognize Michael Swanchers, our District 4 board member who may no longer walk among us, but his spirit of teamwork and dedication will continue to inspire. Michael will be dearly missed, but never forgotten. So I will ask for an approval of minutes.
Second.
John made a motion, second by Dave. All in favor, say aye.
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 And then can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Rob, second by John. Next meeting, November 13th. Yeah, we did that already.